Hello, we've had some new people wanting to catch up with us, so we've decided that we're going to break down the campaign into arcs and hammer out some summaries for you. The first arc of the Queens Rooks picks up with us saying goodbye to one of our players, Andre Meyn. Andre passed away from complications with COVID-19 and type 1 diabetes. His passing marks our transition from the Fallen King series to the Queens Rooks, mainly because referencing a figure named the Fallen King kept reminding us of him. These series are still part of the same campaign, in the same world, and you can find a summary for the Fallen King down in the description below. Dre, we still miss you so much. With the Queen's Rooks coming to a close, it feels like we're saying goodbye to you all over again, and we just love you so very much. With that being said, let's get to the summary. After saying some heartfelt goodbyes to Hush and Sen, we pick up at the party boarding onto an airship, the Sunset Squall. Our party consists of Kexx, the Dhampir Soul Knife Rogue, Lolax, the Changeling Draconic Sorcerer, Saiel, the half-elven Archfey Bardlog, and Styx, the Owlin Grave Cleric. The current goal, given to them by the Guild Pact, is to traverse the Mist Sea, make it to Cloudhold, a former cloud giant bastion converted into a gnomish city, collect an order of gems, and bring them back to Guild Row safely. On the way there, they sailed the Mist Sea, a section of the world covered in phlogiston. This gas makes things buoyant but highly flammable. It allows for floating islands and completely new environments for creatures. The Sunset Squall would jump from island to island, making deliveries and stopping for rest. Before their first stop, though, the crew ran into some storms and even an injured griffin. Making it to their first stop, Stone's Loft, they were met with a quaint town filled with giggling children and curious townsfolk. Taking to the local tavern, the Rook's Roost, they took their rest, but their sleep was unfortunately interrupted by the limping skyship barely making it to port. On board were an amalgamation of people in the literal sense of the world. The Izzet lab of orientation had gone missing some months back in a freak accident. This airship seemingly found the lab translocated into the center of a mining outpost. Their crew fused together. Between Styx and the local doctor, they managed to separate and mend the Izzet scientists, but they would never be the same. Speaking with some of them, the Broken Wings found that they had wound up in the plane of chaos, limbo, and barely managed to survive the encounter at all. The next morning, having lost some time in the previous storms, the Broken Wings and the crew of the Sunset Squall elected to cut through the eye of the Mist Sea, a more dangerous route that, if done poorly, could leave them all stranded. During the trip, Saiel began to learn how to sail from Captain Quill, and took to it fairly naturally. As they took this route, they stopped by the mining outpost mentioned before to collect the goods that the crew of the Stone Turner had left behind while rescuing the Izzet scientists. Knowing that the area was dangerous from the scientists, they elected to have Kexx scouted out. He found the whole mine was filled with Slaad, these monstrous toad-like creatures that hitched a ride from Limbo. Getting through relatively undetected, Kexx was on his way back out when the entrance was blocked by two large Slaad on patrol. The green Slaad stated that it could hear their telepathic communication between Kexx and the rest of the crew. They knew that something was there, just not where it was. Saiel and Lolax came forward to distract the Slaad, inviting them to a game of stones. Keeping them distracted while Kexx got out, they encouraged them to play against one another.
That's enough use for you, I suppose. Sometimes they become werewolves and run off into the night. It's really weird. Would you care to play some mental lodestones? And then I'm going to use those. And then I say, and of course, you have to make a wager.
Alright. You see, he pulls out a... Oh. What's the wager?
Well, I have a feeling that we might be normally your food. Is that right?
No, well, you're either food or breeding stock.
Well, unfortunately, that's not something that we're particularly interested in, but we are interested in hearing more about you and hearing more about how you got here, and of course having a delightful conversation and leaving you to hunt other things. So my wager would be, if we lose, then you get to have a hunt, and if I win, then we have a delightful conversation, and you show us everything that is nice around.
60 seconds I'll just be strumming, adding a nice little ambience, and use enthralling performance after a minute.
As the green Slaad squats on the other side.
And I will be the one to start coaching them through how to play, and start to get to that 50-minute mark. I I think I need to go get a snack. I'm kind of hungry. Do you guys want anything for me to bring back from the ship?
The red one kind of just... Little one.
Okay. All right, I'll be back in a few minutes.
As you guys are leaving and walking away, you hear the greed Slaad is starting to laugh at the red one. He's like, I beat you so handily! Fool! You idiot! Absolute buffoon! Go. You hear scooping as you look back. It is trying to eat the game board again. Get the fuck on. Get out. We're not sleeping here. Go.
Yeah.
Alright, well.
The crew got out just in time before the Slaad realized they had been duped, continuing their journey to Cloudhold. Once they made it to the city of Cloudhold, they were relegated to the bottom floor of the former giant keep. As they waited for their meeting with the Stones Council, they hung around the Green Vine Inn. They learned that the council was currently busy with one Matron Okef, a bird-like woman with a scarred bodyguard. After some further investigation, they deduced that Matron Okef was a Nagpa. This divided the group, as some of them immediately did not trust her due to the connection with Matron Cabas back in Guild's Row. Meanwhile, others thought they don't know that she's a bad person. Once she came down from a meeting with the council, they introduced themselves to her and they all had an amicable discussion. Kexx asked her about being a magical practitioner and the possibility of having her fix his memory issues. And Styx questioned her of the gods and her opinion on them, as they'd been having a crisis of faith themselves. She agreed to help Kexx and get in contact with Matron Cabas on his behalf to figure out how to break the block on his memories, and told Styx that she frankly thought the gods were selfish beings that have no control over mortals. Styx had to wrestle with his faith the rest of the night, even being visited by his god Kalimvor while he slept. They discussed the reason an undead being like Kexx was allowed to live, and why he wanted Bobo, Andre's previous character, to be resurrected. There was a delicate balance between the planes riding on a knife's edge, and that 4 dangerous leaders would emerge, and that they would all have to be stricken down before this was done. Kalimvor and the other gods needed all the tools they can get their hands on.
He pulls out a large coin made of Stygian iron. He shows it to you. On one side, there is a raven that is pinned to the ground. And then he flips it over, and to the other, there's this gauntleted fist. And he tosses that onto the scale as well, knocking it completely out of balance. At this point in time, it's completely tipped over, it's fallen down. He goes, this is why I keep my finger on the other side of the scale. Do not doubt me again.
I will bow my head and say, I am deeply sorry for my insubordination and hope to keep in your blessing.
Sometimes those tools weren't so pretty. The next morning, Okef returned after corresponding with Cabas, saying that the memory block was an unforeseen side effect and not intentional. Cabas was the one who brought Kexx back to life after an awful raid on his family inn took place. The magic she had employed was experimental, though the two of them together might be able to untwist the arcane knot. Or, if Okef had somebody with enough magical fortitude, they may be able to assist now. With that, Lolax volunteered as they'd been exploring Soul Flame, a sorcerer's abilities to turn their own life essence into a boost in magical capability. Saiel reminded them they're putting a lot of trust into a Nagpa with known connections to Matron Cabas, someone who multiple party members had had bad dealings with. They elected to go forward anyways. Okef funneled her spells through Lolax, who spent their own life force to enhance them. The ritual was touch and go, but Kexx did wind up receiving his locked away memories, but at the price of Lolax's body.
Feel her hands release, and there is, oddly enough, a section that you're having memories flow back into you. You remember your mother, you remember your father, you remember the events that transpired leading up to your injury. There's still a bit of a dead spot where you can tell that you were not conscious for a portion of it. Not that the memory has been removed, you just were not there for it.
Got it.
And as this kind of hit is coming in, you're remembering all these things, you look across the way to see Lolax barely standing. Styx is behind them, kind of propping them up. This golden and blue light melding together around them. They are a shamble of their former selves. Lolax, this is going to take more than a day to recover from. This is not going to be, you're going to be fine tomorrow morning. If not for the intervention.
You've gone 7 hit points past my maximum HP.
Yep.
Yeah. You were holding on by the grace of Kalimvor alone. And you know this.
Lolax was burned from the inside out, and if not for the speedy intervention of Styx, would have died. Taking the Ember of Ild, a sliver of the Master Rune of Fire, they managed to place it in his chest, replacing Lolax's former heart, and synchronizing his own internal flames to the Ember of Ild. This left Lolax a burnt husk of his former self, but still alive.
You start to get the areas cleaned up as much as possible, applying the salve, and then taking the vial of limbo and that shard of ember. And as you insert it, Lolax, you've gone from what feels like ice cold to on actual fire on the inside. This injection of arcane flame is now a third type of fire that you have been dealing with. You've gotten somewhat used to the soul flame, you've had your own natural draconic flame, and there's this primordial fire that has just been injected into your system. For a moment, those blue cracks in their skin flash red as it all starts to take place and take hold.
Is there like
The next day, after some rest, they secured the gems promised to Guild's Row and bunkered down for another storm. This one, unlike the rest, a massive elemental called the Elder Tempest showed themselves, bringing gale-forced winds and lightning. Lolax, thinking they're tempering with the Ember of Ild and the bending of ley lines to help Kexx's memory loss previously, might have had something to do with it. Concerned about this, Saiel and Kexx went to the Greenvine Inn to speak with Matron Okef, only for the innkeeper to tell them that she'd went downstairs. Kexx escorted Saiel down below, where they found the place vacated by the previous occupants. Investigating further, they found a small troop of kobolds meandering their way through the hall. Seeing that there were too many to deal with, Saiel and Kexx used minor illusion and mask of many faces to hide their presence. The troop walked by, 15 strong with a large guard in the rear. The pair quickly made their way topside to report to the rest of the group, while Lolax had begun to plan a trip to meet the storm head-on. Feeling responsible for the storm's arrival, Lolax convinced the rest of the crew to join him. The crew elected to leave Kexx behind to guard the ship, while the rest of them took off. Saiel piloted the small dinghy as best he could into the storm. The closer they got, the more serpentine in appearance the storm became. Getting closer and closer, the team began to ask questions to the storm, learning that its name was Zube, and learning that it was just doing its job, traveling from place to place. It did not care if Cloudhold was in the way. It did not care that there were people down there that were going to be ripped apart, their lives ruined. It did not care for the small beings in this tiny little dinghy racing out to go speak with it. It cared for nothing other than moving from place to place, seeding its storms as it left. At this point, the storm hit hard. Saiel tried to man the ship as well as he could, but unfortunately crashed it into the docks using Featherfall at the last second to protect the crew as they jumped. After regrouping and assessing the damages to Cloudhold and the ships in the harbor, the Council of Stone requested the Broken Wings take some of their own defenders and venture into the Clockwork Catacombs to chase the kobold from before. Agreeing to this, they left Lolax in the care of Matron Okef as he rested. Going to the catacombs, they found the underbelly of Cloudhold filled with automatons, some still functioning but crazed. Fighting through, they found a small kobold by the name of Fizzlefang, who revealed that they were part of the pirate crew that used the cover of the storm to steal from the Stone's Council. Taking a break in a cistern to regroup, they then pushed on, making their way to the steam wharf, where the kobold pirates seemed to have been stopped, sending their new friend in, Fizzlefang, as a conquering hero. Somebody who had gotten through all the automatons single-handedly and managed to fight their way back to their crew. Fizzlefang essentially was trying to offer himself up as a distraction to let the other people in. But the quartermaster, Grimclaw, spotted them anyways, and a fight ensued. After a long, perilous fight that had wyverns getting ran over by a skyship, a half-dragon's final attempt at running Saiel through, and Styx going mano-a-mano in fisticuffs with a kobold.
And then, gonna put a fisticuff. That's my turn.
Oh, fucking on fire.
dagger.
Get rid of that poison. I'm going to be a flaming owl that is going to fucking just box this guy.
It smells like chicken.
This is Kobold Alchemist. Sheaths his dagger.
I'm gonna unarmed strike this motherfucker to death.
No.
To cast spirit weapon behind him.
Coward, you bitch.
No, I'm all for it. I am
Absolutely.
all.
42 to hit.
I'm thinking of Maul and just.
No, you guys, this is a whole story arc that you have to experience.
Do you think we haven't had one on the other side?
Not the same.
No.
10 damage.
10 damage. All right. End your foe.
He's gonna be so sad.
I'm gonna try and grab him. He's gonna slip out, and then I'm just gonna point behind him, and then my spirit mace is just going to, like, in a very arcing motion, just clock his head.
You clock him in the head. He stumbles backwards. He falls down on the grease that you've been spilling everywhere this entire time. You on fire, standing above him as the light in his eyes are fading. He looks up at you. End your foe.
He's gonna be so sad.
I'm gonna try and grab him. He's gonna slip out, and then I'm just gonna point behind him, and then my spirit mace is just going to, like, in a very arcing motion, just clock his head.
You clock him in the head. He stumbles backwards. He falls down on the grease that you've been spilling everywhere this entire time. You on fire, standing above him as the light in his eyes are fading. He looks up at you and just.
No, I don't want him to be in the fire.
No, I'm saying you are on fire, standing above him.
I'm just gonna say that wasn't me. Okay.
There was so much disappointment.
Not gonna spare the die.
Again. I need for that.
Hit him with a reset button.
Oh yeah, need a bonus.
Yeah, exactly. So next turn I'm sparing the die.
They reigned victorious. With victory, offered a bit of an odd challenge. They now had an entire pirate crew full of kobolds that had been pressed into service and didn't know what to do with them. They now had a skyship that needed some repairs. To proceed, they kinda needed some help. So, with that, Lolax returned alongside the Stone Singer and Captain Quill on the Sunset Squall. Lolax offered their assistance in the legalese of the situation they found themselves in. Eventually, the party agreed to give all the kobolds a stipend of gold from the loot in the Crimson Scourge, the skyship that they had won, and help them charter a ship to Guild's Row where they might find some steady work and a new home with the Izzet. The Stone Singer had requested of Lolax and the Broken Wings for an adventure further into the Clockwork Catacombs, to an area called the Glittering Grotto, that if they were to retrieve him a large enough piece of gem off of a being called the Rune Crab in the grotto, that he could use it to fashion a new Master Rune, and allow Lolax to take a piece of it with him. Lolax took charge in a show of authority that the group had not experienced out of him before, and this raised a moment of concern, as they were all worried about his well-being after the incident with the merging of the Ember of Ild. After a small check-in and a silent agreement amongst Lolax's friends, they let him take this moment to work out his frustrations. They continue on with Lolax in the lead, but Styx gently guiding him. Much more fighting later, they cleared out the Clockwork Catacombs, found more loot, and even a metal dog to boot. They came across a door with fresh footprints coming in and out of it that were not there the day before. Saiel, using Detect Thoughts as a sonar of sorts, they found a being humming to themselves happily, but as he tried to push further in, they rebuked him and forced him to apologize. Once they were satisfied, they opened the final door, revealing themselves as an ancient giantess called the Runesmith. Blind but seemingly able to know where everybody else was, she revealed that she was a voluntary prisoner of sorts, here for her part in the War of Sin. When it was revealed that the Stone Singer had asked them to come down here, she understood its meaning. She was to put them through their paces. The Broken Wings faced many trials while they were down there, fighting shadowed reflections of themselves, navigating a maze where different lights made different paths solid to the touch, and more. Eventually, they worked their way to the Rune Crab's lair, initially trying to parlay with it with some special food, though the crab was not intelligent enough to understand their ploys. It quickly devolved into a large battle. The battle was a close call, with Kexx strategically placing himself in harm's way so Styx could break a large piece of amethyst and escape using Stone Shape. Say that it is going to roll a con saving throw against your spell save DC. Okay. And that's how we're going to resolve this.
Think that's a fair one.
I'm also going to say this is not precedent setting for things like this in the future.
Right.
There may be different things that we need to look into.
This is just a weird one because it is technically a rock.
100%. No, this is a great use of the
It's
spell.
too much. It's too much
In
on
fact,
others.
I'm going to give it disadvantage on this. The rest of the team covered Styx's escape. With some quick thinking between Lolax and Saiel, they managed to get Kexx out of the crab's claws and back to consciousness just in enough time for him to wind up behind it and finish the fight. Leaving the Runesmith's maze and heading back topside, the Broken Wings saw to their newly won ship, the Crimson Scourge, while they were waiting for the Sunset Squall to be repaired before they embarked on the next leg of their journey. While they waited, their benefactor Morgan Lament sent them a sending, notifying them that their former ally, now turncoat, Thak, a paladin of the Boros, had attacked Styx's graveyard he had tended to called Hollow's Gate, while battling with a renegade angel named Tiana. Shortly after that, they received another sending from Harbeck Brawnanvil, the leader of the Magical University The Pendant, but more importantly at this point, the brother of Hilda Brawnanvil, the mythical Sinslayer from the Third Age. They called requesting assistance of the Broken Wings in their upcoming campaign against the Boros, Thak, and the usurper Aldeconan. Realizing they had a lot more fight ahead of them, they began to prepare, though one more snag would come up. Lolax had found comfort in Ao, the keeper of Matron Okef, essentially their bodyguard, and with an offer to study magic under the Nagpa, he accepted to stay with them. In the lead up to their goodbyes, they met with the Stone Singer and assisted in carving a new master rune, which included Saiel riding the back of a griffin, being chased by actual lightning. Styx scribed a glyph of sending onto Lolax's staff so he can call home at least once, and Lolax confessed their feelings for Kexx. Catching most people, Kexx concluded off guard. Lolax asked if they wanted him to stay, but all of his friends told him to follow his heart. At this time, that meant saying goodbye. In the tension after Lolax's goodbye, Kexx stormed onto the Sunset Squall, with the remaining members of the party following a short time after. This conversation, Ao kind of starts to walk forward and walk up to Lolax and goes, well, we're ready if you are. I don't know how you want to go about it, if you want to at all. We'd love to have you.
I'm gonna turn towards everybody. They probably are all a little bit on edge. Like, yeah, this is the moment.
I'm looking at the ground.
Well, guess catch you guys on the flip side.
You're not gonna see this crowd out.
I don't think so.
I walk on the ship.
I heard all of them.
Matron Okef and Ao and wish them well.
Keep an eye on Kexx for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go talk with him.
I'll give Lolax a hug and I'll let him hop back on our ship.
The remainder of the Broken Wings made their way to Mist Bay to meet with Hilda and Harbeck and plan the next arc of the campaign, the Sundering of Sunhome. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be getting the next arc, the Sundering of Sunhome, out relatively shortly. We hope that you enjoyed it and that you'll share it with some of your friends. Follow us on Twitch, subscribe to the YouTube, drop us a like. We'd really, really appreciate it.